Just in time for the holidays, I want to give you my family's recipe for cornbread dressing. And this is my mother's recipe that I'm going to show you. I've just made a pone of cornbread, homemade cornbread. And I'm going to add 3 stalks of celery, 1 bell pepper, and a large onion. And I'm going to add plenty of chicken broth. And here is some broth. I recently cooked a turkey for Thanksgiving. And I saved in the freezer some of the broth off the turkey, so I'm going to use some of that because I'm not cooking the turkey today. I'm getting a head start, and I'm going to go ahead and make the dressing. And I have 3 eggs boiling. I'll use 3 boiled eggs and 3 raw eggs in the recipe as well. So right now I'm going to chop up my vegetables and saute them. Now, I don't want to brown them when I saute them. I just want to cook them done so that they're translucent. So here we go. And we want to add some green onions. Now, I'm going to make the dressing up. You need a large pot, so I'm going to use my jelly pot or jam pot. So I'm going to turn the burner on relatively low because, like I said, I don't want to brown the vegetables. So I've got the pot turned on, the burner under it turned on to a low heat. And I'm going to add just a little bit of canola oil. You can cook your vegetables in water so that you don't have to add any oil. And I do that quite often. If I'm in a rush, I'll cook them in a microwave in some water. And that works very well. But today I'm going to add them to my pot. And just cook them on low until they're done. And as you can see, I have helpers always. And I have to try to keep them out of the kitchen while I'm cooking. Our vegetables are translucent, and it's time to continue with the recipe. To the vegetables, I am going to add our freshly made cornbread. Now you can use leftover cornbread that you made yesterday or even the day before. I'm going to just crumble it up and add it right to the pot. If you're going to be feeding a whole lot of people and you want to make as much as possible, of course this is going to make a big pan of dressing. But to extend it, if you have some leftover cooked rice, you can add the rice to it, which makes a good filler. Also, if you have some crackers. Now I don't have any rice cooked at the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and add a few crackers. Maybe half a sleeve of these crackers. And just break them up. You'll never be able to taste the crackers. Now I'm going to start adding broth. We are leaving the pot on the stove while we're adding all these ingredients and putting it together. It's just going to continue to cook slowly. And I'm going to be adding broth. I have the 3 boiled eggs. Now back in the day, my mother used 6 boiled eggs and 6 raw eggs in her dressing. But I've cut back. Sometimes I don't add the eggs, but I'm using 3 of each. And I'm adding 3 beaten eggs, raw eggs. Now I have the broth that I mentioned earlier that I've had in the freezer since the last time I cooked a turkey. And I'm going to start, I've heated it up to boiling. And I'm going to add that. This also has some chopped up turkey meat in it. Now I'm not measuring the liquid. Depends on how big your cornbread is, how much rice and crackers and other things. You want your dressing to be loose. If you don't have enough liquid in it, then it's going to be dry, and dry dressing is just not good. So I'm using at least a quart of liquid. And this is still cooking. It's still over a low heat while you're putting it all together. Now we'll add salt, pepper. Some people put sage. My family doesn't particularly care for sage. But I have put poultry seasoning. But today I'm going to use some of this Bell's all natural seasoning. One of my daughters-in-law introduced me to this a few years back. It's what she puts in her stuffing. So I'm going to start with 1 teaspoon of the Bell's seasoning and just sprinkle in some salt and pepper and just season to taste. It's beginning to come together, but I still don't have quite enough liquid. It needs to be looser than this. And if you put a little bit too much liquid in it, you just have to bake it a little bit longer for it to be done. As you can see, it's not quite loose enough. Doesn't have quite enough liquid, so it looks like we're going to have to use all of our liquid, which was about a quart. Actually, with the other boxed broth, probably be a quart and an extra cup or 2 of liquid. Now it's beginning to look like I want it to. It's very loose. So now our dressing has to be put into baking pans. Now my mother quite often made it in her turkey roaster. And so she just set the turkey roaster on the stove, put it all together, and then all she had to do was slide it in the oven. It was ready to bake. But we're not having that large a group to eat when I serve this. So I'm going to freeze part of it. So I'm going to put it in at least 3 containers, 2 to freeze and 1 to cook day after tomorrow. Now if we were baking the whole thing, we would bake it on 350 for about an hour. But by putting it into smaller containers, it won't take quite an hour. But it will probably take between 30 and 45 minutes to cook it. I'm going to go ahead and cook a small amount today. And I'm going to cook it in this 1 quart Cornbread container, and I'm only going to cook a small amount. So I'm preheating my oven to 350 degrees, and I'll put it in for between 30 and 45 minutes. We'll just check it off. And the rest I'm going to cool down and put part of it in the refrigerator and part of it in the freezer. Here is our dressing, and if you can see this, you can tell that it is very moist. It's not dry at all, and that's the way you want it to look. That is just absolutely delicious. My mother would be proud. Thanks for stopping by.